I want you to imagine literally standing on the very edge of this dark, crumbling precipice. You're staring out into a pitch-black abyss, and you know, deep down in your bones, that this abyss, it's staring right back at you. You feel that heavy, suffocating weight in your chest right now? That is exactly the atmosphere we're stepping into today. No warm welcomes, no gentle buildups. We are diving headfirst into a cinematic nightmare. Honestly, as someone who just lives and breathes storytelling, I live for these moments. You know, those rare moments where a narrative completely strips away our comfort and forces us to look absolute, unyielding dread right in the eye. We're going to deconstruct a tale that isn't just about some conflict, it's about impending doom. Let's really look at the architecture of a threat so massive, so incomprehensible, that it completely shatters the foundation of the world it inhabits.
Take this quote, "Something's coming." These two incredibly simple words, they somehow carry the weight of a collapsing star. And I want you to notice what isn't said here. The speaker doesn't name the threat. They don't give us the specs of an army or a fleet or some specific mastermind. They literally just say, something. In great storytelling, the unseen is always infinitely more terrifying than what you actually show in the light. By leaving this approaching doom totally nameless and faceless, the narrative stretches the tension until it's right at the breaking point. It forces our own minds to fill in those blanks with our deepest, darkest fears. It's kind of like it's that primal terror of a storm gathering on the horizon. We can't see the wind, right? But we can absolutely feel the drop in pressure. The dread is already here, long before the enemy has even arrived, and it's just poisoning the air and paralyzing anyone who senses it.
And because this storm is coming, the characters find themselves backed into this impossible corner where logic and morality just begin to fray. I want us to really think about what an unthinkable decision truly means when we're talking about sheer survival. Like, okay, a difficult decision, that's choosing who gets left behind. A terrible decision is sacrificing yourself. But an unthinkable decision, that implies a choice so profoundly horrific, so wildly outside the bounds of our established ethics and humanity that your mind actively rebels against even considering it. What do you actually do when total annihilation is knocking at your front door? Well, you have to break your own rules. You're forced to cross lines you swore you never ever would. And I think this captures the absolute desperation of a world about to lose its innocence forever. It's the realization that survival, well, it might cost them the very souls they're trying to save in the first place.
Section 1. An unstoppable force arrives. The dread of the inevitable.
So we move from the anticipation of this threat directly into the cold, hard mechanics of its inevitability. And the profound despair here is anchored entirely in that one word, deter. Think about it. For generations, the whole concept of defense has been built on deterrence, right? The historical philosophy is basically if we build a high enough wall, or if we forge a sharp enough sword, the enemy's going to look at us and decide, yeah, it's just not worth the fight. But when you say something we may not be able to deter, you are shattering that entire worldview. It means absolutely no amount of preparation, no gathering of massive armies, no accumulation of power is going to make a single bit of difference, because the enemy doesn't care about your walls. The enemy doesn't care about your strength. The psychological impact of realizing you are completely powerless way before the first shot is even fired. I mean, it's a masterclass in establishing apocalyptic stakes. It's this terrifying realization that, hey, you're no longer a player in the game, you're just the board.
Section 2. Echoes of Fallen Warriors. The Burden of History. They were far stronger than all of us put together. I mean, wow. The sheer awe and the terrifying implication woven into those words is just staggering to me. The speaker is invoking the legendary, invincible figures of the past. You know, the titans, the heroes of old we read about in myths, those warriors who always miraculously pulled off the win. By openly admitting that these legendary figures were vastly superior to the current generation, the narrative is completely stripping away any false hope. Any bravado is just gone. It creates this harrowing baseline for the incoming conflict. Think about it. If the absolute best of the best, forces literally stronger than everyone currently standing, combined, were fundamentally insufficient, then what possible chance does the present fractured generation have? Zero. It's a stroke of narrative humility that plunges the characters into a deep, unshakable inferiority complex.
And they died. There is no poetic flourish here. There's no glorious recounting of their sacrifice. Usually, right, this is the part of the story where we expect a last-minute rescue, or we expect plot armor to miraculously deflect the killing blow, because, well, that's just how heroic narratives are supposed to work. But not here. It is just a brutal, abrupt period at the end of a very short sentence. It completely strips all of that cinematic romanticism away. It serves as this incredibly cold reminder that death is final, and it doesn't care how strong or righteous or beloved you are. The Titans fell. They were wiped off the board, and they are gone.
Section 3. A threat beyond measure. The unprecedented enemy.
I have to ask you, how do you actually face an anomaly that completely breaks the scale of known danger? If the apocalypse you barely survived yesterday is just a tiny footnote compared to what's arriving tomorrow, how do you even begin to strategize for that? You're confronting something that isn't just a simple escalation in power. It's a total paradigm shift. It is literally like trying to fight a tidal wave with a sword. The known world is ending, and the rules of engagement simply no longer apply. Those tactical manuals, utterly useless now. Because when the scale of a threat totally eclipses the scale of human comprehension, survival stops being a calculated plan. It just becomes a frantic, flailing instinct.
Let's dissect the raw fear in the statement. The person speaking here is a veteran. They have seen cosmic warfare. They've watched the Titans fall. They have lived through the unthinkable already. And yet they say, those past, world-ending apocalypses scared me far less than this one. Let that sink in. When the battle-hardened veteran, the one who is supposed to be the anchor of courage for everyone else, when they admit to experiencing unprecedented terror, our safety net as an audience is completely ripped away. We rely on those tough, seasoned characters to tell us that everything's going to be all right. So, if the bravest among them is trembling and admitting this profound fear, the threat is elevated way beyond human limits. It signals a complete and total collapse of confidence.
Section 4. The price of division, a call for unity. Everything that they sacrifice will be for nothing if we do not stand together. I love this line because this is the ultimate emotional leverage. In the face of impossible odds, the only variable you can actually control is the person standing right next to you. The speaker isn't just fighting for tomorrow anymore. They are fighting to protect the meaning of yesterday. Losing now means literally erasing the significance of every single drop of blood spilled by those legendary fallen warriors. It means rewriting their heroic deaths into pointless, forgotten tragedies. If you fail to unite, you don't just lose your own future, you completely betray the past. That is a mountainous, nearly unbearable burden to place on the shoulders of the survivors. And the tragedy is, their own internal conflicts might doom them long before the enemy even gets a chance to strike.
Brotherhood, in this terrifying context, is a pure tactical necessity. As we see here, it's a bond forged in the fires of mutual survival. I want you to contrast the absolute triviality of petty squabbles, arguments over ego, territory, old grievances. Contrast that against the majestic, desperate requirement of treating each other as family. Because in the face of absolute extinction, your ego is a luxury you simply cannot afford. Brotherhood here is the total surrender of the self for the survival of the whole. It's discarding every single ounce of pride, because the alternative is complete erasure from existence. It's an incredibly beautiful concept, but man, it is born exclusively out of an absolute, inescapable nightmare.
Section 5. Praying for a miracle. The final stand.
Okay, the crucial point here lies in a single, terrifying two-letter word, if. If you return. Notice they didn't say when, they said if. The speaker is looking out at their united front, assessing the gathered forces, and quietly acknowledging that most of them, maybe even all of them, are going to die. They are marching directly into the meat grinder, and we, as the audience, are just drawn into the tragic beauty of this moment. They are marching toward a highly probable death, but they're actively choosing to do it together, united as brothers and sisters. It is a moment of profound nobility, but it's wrapped up in a shroud of total grief. The outcome is practically sealed, and they have already accepted the end.
After all the grand talk of fallen titans, of unity, of standing together against this coming storm, it all culminates in this very quiet admission: we're going to need a miracle. Logic, earthly power, and brotherhood have now officially bowed down. Look, when a seasoned commander looks out of the battlefield and asks for a miracle, it means the mathematical equations of war have completely failed. It means secular, tangible power is wildly insufficient. They're literally throwing themselves headfirst into the void, desperately hoping for a divine or totally impossible intervention because they have absolutely nothing left in their arsenal to stop the bleeding. It is the ultimate final expression of surrender.
Section 6. The impossible return, the climax.
Hey pal, I want you to really think about the massive, jarring, emotional whiplash of this exact moment. After all the unthinkable dread we just went through, the silent graveyard of gods, the desperate pleas for a miracle, the tension is instantly punctured by this casual, incredibly familiar greeting. It completely breaks through the pitch-black doom. It's intimate, it's colloquial, it absolutely fundamentally shouldn't exist in this space of cosmic terror. Is it a voice from the past, a friend long thought dead, or is it the enemy wearing a deeply familiar face? This brilliant juxtaposition takes all that grand, operatic dread and suddenly makes it shockingly, terrifyingly personal. It flips the narrative entirely on its head in a fraction of a second.
It's not possible. When the impossible stares you right in the face, all your preparations, all your grief, and all your cold logic immediately collapse. Because really, what does it mean when the miracle you prayed for finally arrives, but it wears a face that either breaks your heart or completely shatters your mind? It leaves us hanging right on the absolute edge of the abyss. We are forced to confront how delicate our grasp on reality actually is. It leaves the narrative forever changed, desperately needing to know what happens next when the impossible finally steps out of the shadows.